Nikita Khrushchev took over as the leader of the Soviet Union, which surprisingly was not a fixed position. Like, there wasn't one title you could hold and be leader of the Soviet Union. The political spectrum historically was very complicated. I mean, at points the person in charge was the premier, at other points it was the general secretary of the Communist Party. In fact, for way too long it was the general secretary of the Communist Party, the leader of a political party rather than an actual leader. And a ton of the time, the same person took both roles, general secretary and premier. And then near the end of the Soviet Union, they created this new office called President, who was supposed to, become the new head of state, so that the general secretary didn't have that much power, but oddly enough, it was still the general secretary who held the position of president. And then the Soviet Union collapsed. Probably because it had such a makeshift political system. Like, seriously, it was kind of hard to call it a country. It was more like a confederacy where one of the countries in it had hegemony over all the others. Am I describing that correctly? I don't think I am. But I mean, all the countries that broke out of the Soviet Union, they were there in the Soviet Union. They were different Soviet republics. Stuff like that. It's really confusing trying to wrap your head around the political system of the Soviet Union. It was very convoluted. Then again, most 20th and 21st century political systems are incredibly convoluted. Not like in the early modern period, where you had a king, and a king made all the decisions, and that's that. I mean, autocracies are very easy. They're always, like, incredibly straightforward. You know, I'm outputting way more tourism than him. I mean, you get one guy to make all the decisions. That's the most efficient government you could probably have. Of course, unless that one person making decisions is a Cincinnatus, which he very rarely is, it turns into a brutal, repressive government that everybody hates because it is so horrible. I mean, in modern democracies, something they try to set up is to make the government weak so it's unable to do that. And that's called classic liberalism. Although, for some reason, in modern times everyone calls it conservatism, even though that's not what conservatism is. Like, not remotely. And the whole concept of classic liberalism, I forgot how long these fucking plane animations take. I need to fucking get an interceptor in Brussels. I think we have enough money for it now. Yeah, we get it. That guy died. Ouch. You guys are pricks, but I suppose I was the one who declared on you, so... You know, maybe it's my fault that guy died, but... No, you just had to be too asshole. Hellion. Yes, Hellion. So yeah, it's like the whole concept of classical liberalism revolves around keeping the government weak so that it can't oppress its populace. Which, you know, sounds good until you realize that classic liberal societies kind of suck because the government can't do anything, even when it needs to. I mean, it's an ideology that's set around literally crippling the institution meant on keeping order in a nation. Doing something like that does not go by very well. But oftentimes it's kind of necessary for a new republic to go through a classic liberal period, or else it just keeps falling into repressive regimes over and over again. You know, like is the case with Egypt. I mean, they get rid of Mubarak, and then they elect Morsi, and he just turns into another Mubarak. And then there's a coup, and then you've got some general whose name I don't recall, even though I really probably should, running things. Egypt's a real mess. Funny thing is, I wouldn't even know anything about it if it weren't for this, this show that they, made that's supposed to be like The Daily Show in Egypt. And, I mean, it's all in Arabic, but if you can find subtitled versions of it, it's called El Bernameg. It's actually pretty funny. So, yes, that is something I enjoy from time to time. Sisi, that's the general's name. Or that's similar to the general's name. Yeah, and particularly, you kind of see the failings of classic liberalism when you start comparing to certain parts of history, for instance, in the United States, because the Revolutionary War ended in 1783, but the Constitution was not adopted till what year was it? 1788, I think. So, 5 years in between. And the reason was because originally there was supposed to be there was a different constitution that the United States was running under. They didn't call it a constitution, it was called the Articles of Confederation. Originally the United States was supposed to be a confederacy. And it limited the power of the federal government so much that it wasn't even a government. It was more like it was more like the United Nations, but only less capable of doing things, which I know, hard to believe something less functional than the modern United Nations, but That's what it was. They couldn't even collect taxes. There couldn't even be a federal army. It was more like each state was its own country and had to fare on its own, which went horrible because without a strong federal government, there was no way to actually protect the country from any kind of problem. It had to rely on individual state governments to lend a helping hand, which they did not. And a part of the problem was that after the Revolutionary War, you had a bunch of Revolutionary War veterans who had been promised to be, gain like a veterans benefit. And of course they didn't, because there was no one to provide any kind of benefits, and that kind of led to widespread revolts, which could not be put down because, again, there was no standing army. And that was probably one of the most extreme instances of classic liberalism in play, and it was a complete and utter failure. I mean, the only thing that could kind of be considered a success, I guess, might be the Northwest Ordinance, which was meant as a method for organizing the settlement of the what's now considered the Midwest. And, I live in that area, and it was settled rather efficiently. I mean, all the cities are laid out in a sensical manner, and counties are, well, most of them are squares. The specific Wisconsin county I live in is literally a big square. It's very efficient, not much unlike those old colonial settlements, which are all incredibly inefficient. This guy I can't retreat. Unless I can get this guy killed this turn, I think I'm going to lose him to the fucking planes. I still might. For some reason, they seem to be able to see things that they cannot actually see. Oh hey, you know something I just realized? I spent this entire recording session talking about politics. That's probably got to make for an interesting couple of episodes. I'm of course being sarcastic. No, nobody fucking cares. Just, the moral of the story is, I don't know what I'm talking about, but I do know a lot of history. So, there's that. Also, classic liberalism sucks, but it is necessary for getting a democracy started, or else it's not going to stay a democracy. I prefer modern liberalism, which I suppose would be better referred to as socialism, because, you know, this kind of exactly what it is. Yeah, I'm going to annex this city now. We can almost certainly purchase a courthouse to get rid of that unhappiness. And now, oh, we're out of oil. Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, at least we're going to be getting a plane in the next few turns. Wonderful. Just like my long, boring speech about historic politics. Huh? Why can't I select this guy? Okay, well, the game's reaching a new level of buggy, which means it's probably time to end the session. So, until next time, I am Lord Revonworc. This has been great, and I will see you all later. Bye!